Board.
Social services and
We're glad to be here today. I'm Lori
pieces of
Medina,
programs
Director of
that
Social
was
Services, and I'm also first-time Commissioner. And it is my pleasure
I
to...
gotta get onto some of the items here. I just wanted to touch base on that.
And with her to walk us through the presentation is Nina Alvarez, who is the Director of Policy, Advocacy, and Communication. So with that, thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Medina.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman and members of the board. Thank you for your time this afternoon. And as Commissioner Medina said, my name is Francine Rod, and I'm Executive Director for First 5 Monterey County. And I'm here with Nina Alvarez, who is the Director of Policy, Advocacy, and Communication. I want to really thank Commissioner Lori Medina and Supervisor Chris Lopez for their service on the commission. And while we don't have enough time today to talk about everything that First 5 Monterey County does, this presentation will highlight some of the ways that we are effective in using our resources, managing programs, and making a difference. And so if you haven't had a chance yet to review the information in your packet, we have the board report as well as the community annual report. And the community annual report is also available on our website. So in terms of our vision at First 5 Monterey County, our programs are collaboratively designed. We do a strategic planning process that involves the community input and input from our service providers and other systems leaders in our community. And we do our implementation with community partners. So the vision that the community came up with was that all children reach their unique potential in a family and community that values, respects, and invests in early childhood. And the mission of First 5 is to enrich the lives of children from the prenatal stage through age 5 and their families by strengthening connections and advancing quality within a whole system of care and support. In plain words, what that means, and we're learning to be more plain with our language, is that our partners, with our partners, we help families make connections to supports and services, and we help systems to better coordinate to support children and families. So who is First 5 Monterey County? Well, we are an independent public agency that was established in 1998 when Proposition 10 set aside 50 cents from every pack of tobacco products for early childhood systems, programs, and services. There are 58 First 5s, one in each county throughout the state, and there's a state First 5 Commission. So each county determines the programs and services that are right for their needs. We sit in the sweet spot between government, nonprofits, and private organizations, perfectly positioned to be able to leverage and maximize both government and community connections. We're accountable to public processes while still being able to be nimble and creative and cost-effective. One of the advantages of that is that we aren't part of the county retirement system. First 5 Monterey County Commission or the state retirement system, so we are a little bit more lean in that regard. The First 5 Monterey County Commission and committee meetings are open to the public and are in accordance with the Brown Act. We welcome the public to attend and make comments. We're also fiscally accountable with a high level of accounting standards and the history of clean audits. So what does that mean over the years? And that means that in terms of our staff at First 5 Monterey County, we are also experienced and effective. They have deep connections, and you'll see them all here, with each other and with the community. There's expert content and institutional knowledge among our team that shows our work shows in our work for children and families in Monterey County. We've been blessed with low staff turnover, and the combined years of experience of our program staff is a whopping 181 years. The longevity of our staff is also something that we're proud of, with an average length of time at the agency of over 7 years. So we've been strategic with our combination of using some of that talented staff to provide some direct services and also subcontracting out to nonprofits and other entities in order to maximize and leverage dollars and resources. So that respect has been something that the state has also taken a look at and seen that because of our reputation and our expertise, the staff has been called on to participate on several committees, both at the local and the state level. And most recently, we've been called on to help inform a new state process. Governor Newsom announced the Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative in July of 2021. And it has $4.4 billion investment to enhance, expand, and redesign the system of support for behavioral health for children and youth. The director of the initiative, who was recently appointed, reached out to us to help design and facilitate focus groups with parents to identify community voice and experience in helping reshape the mental health system for children 0 to 5 and their families. So with that in mind, we'd like to share with you some comments that Assemblymember Rivas and the First Five Association State Executive Director Jackie Wong shared with us at a recent diaper and COVID supply distribution event a couple of weeks ago.
Well, First Five, in our district, our region, across the state, does such valuable work, such incredible work.
First Five was established because of the science and the research saying that we can actually prevent long-term negative outcomes if we focus on the first 5 years.
It is an effort that has been prioritized by myself and by many of my colleagues, by the governor, to ensure that we are prioritizing this issue, that we're investing in creating opportunities for all families, for all children, to have access to early childhood education, to have those early interventions is critical to future success for this generation and beyond.
Monterey County First Five is a model for other commissions around the state. So we are so grateful for their collaboration, their collective impact framework, and really kind of understanding and targeting their resources to high needs communities. They have phenomenal impact. They don't brag enough about what they do.
We are incredibly fortunate in Lucky County, Central Coast, and the County of Monterey to have such incredible leaders and organizations and structures such as the First Five, incredibly proactive efforts to do everything we can to chip in, to collaborate at all levels of government, federal, state, and here at the local level, to make a difference for our most vulnerable families.
So we're really glad that we have been able to
First Five,
serve and
in our
support,
district.
and he's saying it again, to serve and support the community, and very humbled by those words that are said, because we don't like to toot our own horn. But over the last 22 years, we've supported close to 600,000 people, 599,859 young children, parents, educators, and providers. And some of them are the smiling faces that you see on this slide. And you'll also hear from some of our funded partners that helped to make this possible. In fiscal year 2021 alone, we served over 22,000 children, parents, caregivers, and providers. And we're pleased that through that work, parents are feeling better able to support their children, providers better able to support parents, and systems better able to support providers, parents, and children. And that means that children are more ready for kindergarten than their peers. Now, under the pandemic, we have seen, obviously, that the challenges for the families have been really, really difficult. And it has been hard for all of our children and families. Some examples over the years of where we have been able to be flexible and nimble and met the moment included in terms of childcare, providing on-site coaching and technical assistance and workforce development. We provided loans to childcare providers when the government contracts were slow to arrive and they were on the verge of closing. We've worked with Senator Caballero to sponsor and get passed bills that forced some changes in the way that child care is reimbursed throughout the state. And in mental health, there's a mental health training that we have been conducting over the last 10 years that has really come in handy under these difficult circumstances these last couple of years, to help to support our workforce. Our Early Childhood Collaborative have also helped to support systems and families to work to meet the services and the needs that they're encountering. And yet, there are still huge gaps, right? We've all seen them in our systems and supports and our needs. We haven't had enough funding or enough collaboratives to be able to support all the families, especially during the pandemic.
So what Francine talked about, I'm going to continue about what the tradition of responsiveness is currently in our fiscal year 2021 report to you. So let's take a moment, and I don't think anybody really wants to do this for a long period of time, but to time travel and put yourself back in where we were at the start of fiscal year 2021, which would be around July, right? We didn't know, there was still much uncertainty around COVID-19. Our country was facing a racial awakening, and Monterey County was affected by wildfires last summer. So if we remember what that mindset was like, we know that it was really challenging for our community. And I want to especially talk about how it affected our early childhood education workforce. So the pandemic, I think, really highlighted for many of us what the early childhood field has known for many years, that childcare is an essential service for our community. And early childhood educators, the ones who look after our little ones, really are essential workers also. They are critical for our economy to thrive because we need childcare to enable our workforce to be able to return to work. And so despite that necessity of childcare, there were many challenges that surfaced for early childhood educators, including lack of access to vaccines and accessing supplies that would help keep children and families healthy and safe, and which added to additional operating costs for them. So First 5 served as a lead partner for the Child Care and Wellbeing COVID-19 Response and Recovery Coalition, and that helped to work to improve the system supporting child care educators. Child care workers work diligently to stay open for other essential workers, like our farm worker population. That would require them to, very similarly work hours of 4 a.m. to 7 p.m. And that made things like finding vaccine appointments very difficult because if you recall at the beginning of the pandemic, vaccines were hard to come by. Clinics were often held during hours when most of those workers, childcare workers, couldn't access that. So we worked together with the Office of Education, with Bright Beginnings, with the Mexican American Opportunity Foundation and Centro Binacional to sponsor vaccine clinics, and we vaccinated essentially over 2,000 child care and education providers, especially on weekends and evening clinics. So similar to how there were farm worker clinics that met farm workers where they were at, we also met child care workers where they were at when they needed us. I mentioned briefly about how there was increase in operating costs for child care workers. This includes additional cleaning supplies, diapers, wipes, and that was those cleaning supplies were very expensive and hard to come by. So we helped provide some of those to reduce those costs for child care providers so they wouldn't have to themselves cut into their already low profit margins. This ultimately helped keep child care centers in Monterey County open. That's not true for most of the nation. There were many child care centers that closed down, and we didn't have that same experience here, thankfully. But we continue to hope to support our child care workers in that way. And then also just in supporting when there were additional protocols that came forward, we have technical assistants that provided one-on-one coaching to centers to help children and families with distance learning, and then eventually with socially distanced learning when they attended childcare. So one program that we're especially proud of is partnering to support parent advocacy. So First 5 Monterey County is the co-founder and the fiscal agent for the Central Coast Early Childhood Advocacy Network. And the network rallies early childhood advocates from Monterey, Santa Cruz, and San Benito. And we have currently over 400 individuals that have joined and are connected with our network. And the network is led by Parent Voices, and we host several events throughout the year, including a Parent Power Summit. We have a policy and learning community I'll tell you a little bit more about later. We also do legislative visits with all the California elected officials. And in 2020, we hosted our first annual town hall with Congressman Jimmy Panetta. And I'd like to play a video for you of parents, child care educators, and community members that participated in town hall, which was titled, Centering Children and Families at the Heart of Recovery.
Como madres, nuestras prioridades son nuestros hijos. y todos los niños de nuestras comunidades.
Somos padres, alumnos y familias impactados por todas las situaciones que estamos viviendo.
They are community members concerned about our children and youth given the stressful, uncertain times and the effects it will have on their mental health.
Somos mujeres madres y es demasiado esfuerzo bajo la pandemia.
There is a lot of stress, having to learn new skills for children, parents, caregivers, and students.
What is the lack of funding and support for children with disabilities and low-income families?
Communities of color are disproportionately affected by the intersection of present pandemics.
I grew up in an immigrant family with a lot of tough times, but with my mom's support, I was able to attend nursing school and, be able to see how young children are isolated and struggling through COVID.
So we request that you prioritize funding for schools to be able to reopen safely.
Be even more aggressive in leveling the playing fields for all our children by investing in their future.
We ask you to dedicate funding to ensure trauma-informed services for all children and families.
Nuestra comunidad necesita involucrar más a las personas de bajos recursos económicos e incluir líderes representando a la comunidad, además de implementar maneras más efectivas y justas e iguales para ayudarlos en lo que necesitan.
Y se necesita invertir más en nuestros niños, que son el futuro del país.
Nos gustaría que los niños tuvieran una calidad de educación y servicios gratuitos, accesibles para todos los niños y centrar a los más vulnerables como prioridad.
More investments to make schools safe enough for kids to be together, learning not just reading, writing, and math, but also how to be healthy, safe, and connected.
We're strong and capable, and we've taken on more and more responsibility during these challenging times. We believe our elected representatives can provide more relief now and more respect.
Pedimos empatía y equidad para todos. Gracias.
Gracias por estos espacios a comunidad, a padres que puedan hablar su propio idioma.
Esto quiero dar gracias a ustedes porque sé que el trabajo en equipo es poderoso y juntas vamos a lograrlo. Gracias.
So Nina exhibited an example of the first 5 humbleness because actually the idea for the whole Central Coast Early Childhood Advocacy Network was hers. And so that's an example of what can happen with someone who has a great idea and moves forward with it. Somebody else gets out of the way and let's move forward with it. So in terms of our early childhood collaboratives, which is another area that's been responsive to community requests for helping connect families to resources. There are 5 of them. 1 in Pajaro, 1 in Castroville, 2 in Salinas, and 1 that supports South County. This past year, more than ever, families and children needed intensive supports to help them navigate through the various challenges they faced. First 5 Monterey County Early Childhood Collaboratives were there, helping families access services and supports during the pandemic. They continue to provide their regular services, which included screening and assessments, care coordination, virtual home visits, and playgroups, but they also broadened their response to include food vouchers, grocery gift cards, diapers, housing support resources, and advocating for employment protections. They also provided technical assistance when the digital divide became more pronounced and more visible during shelter in place. We also support capacity building for our community because the quality of service delivery is very important. And so we pride ourselves whenever possible on making sure those services use current research and best practices. So these are some examples of the trainings that you see on the screen there. We provide support to CARES, which is actually the counselors at MPC and Hartnell to provide technical assistance and support. We also support Quality Matters, which is a project out of Monterey County Office of Education, technical assistance in the child care centers themselves, circle of security, abriendo puertas, and facilitating attuned interactions are some examples of those trainings as well that we do. So our longest and most intensive training is our mental health series. With growing feelings of isolation and other mental health issues continuing to emerge in our community, especially due to COVID and the COVID pandemic, we've seen a need for the increase of our training series. So the Infant, Family, Early Childhood Mental Health Training Series offers knowledge about the unique needs of infants and young children, along with skill building and practical expertise for professionals that work with children throughout Monterey County. And this past year, we had 128 early childhood professionals participate and build their knowledge and expertise about the social, emotional, developmental needs of children and infants. The program has a history of high success in achieving this goal, with 98% of the participants reporting that participation in the program resulted in their increased knowledge of how to work with children and their families. This training ensures that the workforce servicing our children and families are able to provide mental health services in a way that's culturally appropriate and rooted in each family's needs. So there on the screen, you see a snapshot of our financials from fiscal year 2021. You'll see that combined with the programs and services, when we combine that with evaluation, which helps us understand if we're making a difference, that's 91% of our funding that goes to those two services and supports. So as we look to the future, Nina is going to tell you a little bit about a couple of the programs, and I'll close out with the mental health. That's how we've been expanding our mental health training this year.
So I know that we've been discussing fiscal year 2021, so that ended, in June. And so we're already halfway done with fiscal year 21-22, so I feel safe to say that I can give you a hint of what we're currently working on and what you can look forward to in our next annual report. One of those programs is dual language learning. Dual language learners make up over 60% of California's students, and studies have shown that early bilingualism can lead to improved academic outcomes and executive functions, like the ability to focus and exhibit empathy. So First Five Monterey County has partnered with the Monterey County of Education and First Five California on a dual language learner program. So we currently work with about 45 in-home childcare programs that serve over 300, like around 336 children ages 0 to 5. We work with the professionals to support them with using books and other tools of how to engage young people in both English and Spanish. And we in turn also send them home with these books and activities with their parents so that the learning continues not just in their childcare setting, but also at home with them. And we have heard beautiful stories of the impacts that this has had with families, where parents are having deeper engagement with their children, they're excited about storytelling, they learn about their history. And like we heard from one parent that she, through this program, has been inspired to re-enroll in English classes so that she too could be bilingual. You'll also hear from the Central Coast Early Childhood Advocacy Network. We received a grant from All In for Kids, which is coming out of the Bay Area for I can't remember the exact amount, but I'll be able to share that with you at the next report. But because of this grant, we've been able to grow the program by leaps and bounds. And especially, we're finding that parents are hungry to understand the political system, and they're hungry to raise their voices up to affect it. One example of how we're seeing that that's coming up is a policy learning cohort that we piloted last year, where parents and community members can learn about the legislative system, the importance of advocacy, and the power of storytelling. Parents go through this policy learning cohort, and then they're able to feel empowered and equipped to go into visits with our California legislators. Last year, since it was our pilot for fiscal year 2021, we kept it small to only about 8 participants. We just opened our registration for this year, and we're already at around 50 people that are interested in taking it, and more that are wanting to participate as the number keeps growing every day.
So we like to think that because of some of that advocacy, that helped at the state level to help increase the emphasis on and the knowledge around the importance of these areas and the efforts that have been happening. The other piece I want to just give you a little bit of a teaser on is around the mental health training. So in addition to childcare, the pandemic has highlighted the importance of mental health, and we all have experienced persistent and pervasive adverse experiences over the last couple of years. What we need to also recognize, obviously, is that our children have as well. I was at a training last night with over 100 people. That was from 6 to 8 p.m. so that, again, our child care providers could attend. People are hungry for this information. And one of the things that the presenter told us about, she said, she did a lot of metaphors. And she did this metaphor where she said, people who have adopted dogs or from the SPCA might bring a dog home, and they might notice that that dog might end up being afraid of a certain type of a person or an experience or something, like folks who have a beard or come to the door with a hat, and they recognize and think, okay, something happened to that dog in their experience or their childhood or their puppyhood that made them afraid of this kind of a person, and so that things trigger them. It's like, why don't we think of that with children? Why do we feel as if they don't remember, or they don't know, or they don't feel, when of course they do? And part of that is because we don't want to believe that they would hold on to those negative experiences that they have in their lives, but they do. And so what we need to know is how to support them to be able to move from those persistent historical trauma situations to proceed to have a successful life. So those are some of the things and the experiences that we have been able to bring to our community. We have, over the years, connected with all of our, and we don't do it alone, we have our community partners, and you'll start to see them on the screen now because we have been innovative and strategic. We make things move behind the scenes. You may not see us because, as Jackie said in her quotes, we're not out there touting and taking credit. We just keep our nose to the grindstone and we do our work behind the scenes to help to support the children and families and the systems in Monterey County. And so First Five is there behind each of those organizations and entities and helps to connect the web of children and support in our collaboratives. But more importantly, you'll also see us here in the eyes and the smiles of these families that have been touched by our efforts. So I want to thank you again for your time today, and Nina and I would be glad to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you so much for your presentation. The pictures alone just speak volumes of the work that you do. And Francine, I can tell you, from having the opportunity to interact with folks at the state level, you are legend. You really are. You and the team that you have built make a significant impact on all the other First Fives in California. So once again, putting Monterey County at the top of the pile is really appreciate it. Let me see if my colleagues have comments or questions, and let me go by some kind of order this time. I'm usually turning to the right, but let me go down here. Supervisor Phillips, any comments or questions before we go to the process?
No, I appreciate your presentation as always very thorough, and I think we've all come to appreciate how important what you're trying to do is. I can't remember ever sentencing a young kid to prison who really started off and thrived well in elementary school. Zero, so anyway, appreciate the work you're doing. Thank you.
Mr. Commissioner?
I don't like to disagree with staff, but sorry, Nina, I have to do it. You talked about dual language learners being more empathetic. My 2-year-old doesn't care when it's bedtime, when it's time to wake up, so I have to disagree on that front. But everything else was extremely well said. I know that we survived the work of the last couple of years together, and I do think that all of it is done by teamwork. And so knowing that Supply Bank and all of our other partners throughout the county, including the food bank, that helped us distribute things in those critical times when we needed hands, right? Just hands to deliver. I'm just so appreciative of the work that you all continue to do on behalf of the families in Monterey County, knowing that that strong start is what's critical for our kids. We still have work to do, and we know that. We don't say that the work is complete and that we've accomplished everything we set out to do, because the work is still in front of us. And I know that each one of you carries that in your heart in the work that you do every single day. And so I know that this presentation is one of those things we have to do every year, but it is one of the things I look forward to as well, to stop and look back down and see how far we've come. But there's still a mountain ahead of us, but thank you for the work that you've done.
Thank you, Supervisor Lopez. Ms. Askew?
Well, there were times I was like wanting to jump out of my seat, Nina, and cheer about the things that you were sharing about the way in which First Five supported our community during the really dark days of the pandemic. And we talk about capacity and how we just don't have capacity to work on some of our housing issues and our homelessness issues and our this issue and our that issue. And we just need the staff who are able to like show up and get the work done. And I think that one of the most incredible stories is that First Five has the capacity, and you've been showing up to elevate the voices of families and parents in a way that, kids don't have lobbyists. And if we ever experience that, for me, I think one of my takeaways too is that the past couple of years is recognizing that resources are prioritized where there are loud voices and advocacy. And so the way in which First Five has helped bring parents' voices always to the table, always to public comment, always to budget committee, always to where we're having this discussion, it makes a difference. And I'm so grateful and appreciative of the fact that we have such a strong First Five here in Monterey County. And Francine, I just want to say, I sometimes just want let's go, let's get going, moving forward, let's go. And to go slow, to go fast, bring everyone along. I think it's clear that there are outcomes that we've achieved because of that path and the intentionality of the work that's happening. So I'm grateful for everyone in that larger universe that is really working to support children and parents. We made it through the dark days of the pandemic, but the experience that I can tell you my child has had will stay with him forever. Not just, we haven't been affected health-wise, but the mental health and everything around our family, everything that's happened in the periphery of our family's experience will stay with our kids forever. And those parents are going to need support into the future, and our kids are going to need support moving forward, especially the ones the babies who were born in the last 3 years where the isolation that you experience in those early days is traumatic for the child and their family. And so our work is only, I think, just beginning. The need for the work that First Five does is only going to grow in the coming years as we see the impact on families. So thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Radasky. Supervisor Lake.
I want to thank and recognize the efforts as well. As long as we keep having children, the work will never end, because the next generation comes up and there's always new challenges as times change. And certainly the last 2 years have been very challenging for our kids, but also for our child care providers. And I enjoyed seeing the report in yesterday's news about Harnell College stepping up and creating a new kind of apprenticeship program to, I think, waive the student fees, but also provide a stipend for folks who are interested in going into the child care profession. And I want to say profession because it's really, when we're entrusting our kids into these individuals, they have to be highly trained. There's a lot of rules and regulations, and they certainly provide high quality service. But the news story did highlight the greatest challenge is that our child care providers are paid an average wage of only about $30,000 per year. And today we had some earlier conversations about wage disparities and how difficult it is for families to sustain themselves in a very expensive county like Monterey County. But those conversations need to be recognized that these are real challenges. And I do want to thank Harnell College for stepping up and really trying to meet a major need and a crisis within our community of trying to facilitate fostering the next generation of child care providers within our local community. So I want to thank them for that, but I know this is something that we have to keep supporting, and I know First Five and our other partners, I think, were excited to hear the same news that I did yesterday, and I want to certainly be supportive and applaud Hartnell College's efforts. I think we really need some additional programs like that, and perhaps at MPC as well, where we could help meet that need within our county. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Alejo. And I have just one question before I take it out to the public for comment, and that is it's sort of a two-part question. But what do you think are the biggest challenge facing children 0 to 5 and their families? And then what do you think we as a county can do to help mitigate that challenge?
Thank you, Chair Adams, for that question. We actually just had a survey that was done through the Central Coast Early Childhood Advocacy Network that had over 70 responses to it, and it's the largest one we've had so far related to the priorities. And the number one priority that was identified by the parents is childcare, really to stabilize and strengthen childcare and early learning systems to ensure that every family and essential worker has access to quality, affordable care for their children. And what Supervisor Alejo just mentioned is a big, huge part of that and very key, and it's a complex issue that involves needing to pay folks the way that they should be paid and remunerated, making sure that there is a workforce there, that there are family child care provider sites, and that there are centers as well. So Bright Beginnings is an initiative of the Children's Council that's housed at First 5. I didn't talk about that today because they have their own presentation as part of the Children's Council, so you'll hear more about that. And they were very involved in helping to support the Hartnell project that Supervisor Lopez mentioned, and Supervisor Alejo mentioned, sorry. And that we have First 5 supports as we said, the counselors at Hartnell as well. So it's a team effort, again, in terms of trying to make sure that we're addressing these issues. So that's one. The next is mental health, as Supervisor Askew mentioned, that expanding access to mental health services for children, parents, caregivers, and educators. And that means we're excited to see the groundbreaking a couple weeks ago for the new center in Alisal, and that's going to be a huge, as Supervisor Lopez said, pour in the bucket. It's not all the way to the top, but it's huge. But what we need is more communities' responses to mental health. More people trained, as we're doing with our infant, family, early childhood mental health, to be able to recognize some of the consistent and the persistent trauma that I was talking about, to be able to provide supports and services. More of the collaboratives, the work that the collaboratives are doing in terms of assessing and screening and connecting families to those resources and supports is a real key area that we see of a need coming up. Then next is really increasing early childhood programs, funding for those programs like First 5 to ensure effective, sustainable systems to support young children and families. And the fourth one was housing and homelessness, providing rental assistance, eviction protections, and affordable housing for families. So those are the areas that came up in that survey. And I think it points in a direction that you all are headed in, and that we need to continue to expand.
Thank you for that. Supervisor Alejo, is that a legacy hand? Or?
Yes, it is, sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll take it out to the public now. Is there anyone in the house that would like to make comments?
Hello, Kevin Dayton speaking as a resident of Monterey County. I'm involved as a representative of various business groups. And one of the things I've been hearing for the past couple of years is we have a shortage of labor here. People are having trouble finding employees. And one of the reasons that's often cited is child care is not affordable or not accessible. And I've had a couple of meetings last fall where we went through charts of 20 different options you could do for child care. And I realize this is a difficult issue for people to understand. It's a foreign issue to a lot of people because they regard it on a very personal basis rather than a systematic level. I did hear that some people were working on a safe, affordable child care ballot initiative. So I actually got on board with that because my conclusion was if you have a problem, you're going to have to do it. There's a lot of talk about money here. You got to move beyond money. You got to move beyond talk and start talking about how you're going to fund these sort of things and what you might want to do. I think all of you as supervisors play a critical role on this because child care advocates, they're in their world, other people are in a different world, and we need more bridges to explain to the people at large how this would benefit the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Next, is there anyone else in chamber safety should have comment on this item?
Sure, why not? Before I miss my chance.
I'm sorry.
Hey folks, West White community enthusiasts at large. I actually remember one of the first instances I ever had was First Five at the Cymex Center for retroophilia. Had it on the exhibit there for like 6 months. That was part of my classroom practicum for early childhood education I actually got it. So, you know, and that money aspect is one of the reasons why I couldn't fall through, because I was actually shadowing to be like a site supervisor. It didn't happen. You know, yeah, the way we don't put enough money into caring, and caring as a profession is woefully underrated. So any funding you can do toward that, and I mean, this last decade I've watched First Five go, and it's just been amazing. Folks are fantastic work, and keep it up.
Thank you, Mr. Watkins. And seeing no one else in chambers, I will go to Zoom, and I first have Cesar Lara and then Luciana.
Good afternoon, members of the Board of Supervisors. Cesar Lara with the Monterey Central Labor Council and Community. It's rare that me and Kevin Dayton could be on the same page, but it is an important topic. When we survey and talk to our membership of union members and community, it's child care. It's one of the biggest barriers we have in the community. And this is an economic development issue. This is a loose link in our economy that we need to address. And I'm really happy with the work that First Five has done in the Children's Council as well, but with First Five here on the agenda. And looking forward to the board, like Kevin said, put their money where their mouth is, and let's do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Cesar. Next we have Luciana and then Claudia.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Luciana de Jesus. I am trilingual. I speak Spanish, English, and Turkey. I am care coordinator at Centro Binacional para el Desarrollo Indígena Oaxaqueña. Centro has been a First Five Monterey County founder partner for a long time and works with families to help strengthen the relationship between partners and children. Since the beginning of the pandemic, our organization had to adjust to meet the needs of families. Activities that were normally done one-on-one were moved to virtual, and many families needed technical assistance to learn how to use virtual tools. Centro worked with our partners for the first five, collaborated to help provide training, and parents has told us that the coaching helped support the development of new skills and allowed them to be more involved in their children's education. One of the things we do with the family is we communicate with them in their own language and do the ASQs, and we also connect them with other services that they need. We are very thankful to the First Five for the support towards our family and towards us. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And now we will go to Claudia Gomez.
Good afternoon, my name is Claudia Gomez and a proud parent educator of over 12 years. I'm the Director of Family Services at Door to Hope. For the past 2 years, I have overseen the First Five Door to Hope Early Childhood Collaborative, which provides direct support to parents of children 0 to 5 by providing child development screenings, parent information, and services to children prenatal through the age 5 and their families. We also help families with referrals and assist with coordination of services. The First Five Collaborative is now giving me an opportunity to raise these family voices and make them a part of our leadership tables and allow them to guide our work and the changes we make to the systems that are meant to support them. With the support of First Five, we're also now training and preparing some of our parents to learn about how systems work and to share their own stories in legislative and community spaces and become an integral part of our county's leadership teams. I have also participated in the First Five Infant Family Early Childhood and Mental Health Training Series for the past 8 years. Through the training series, I continue to build a quality team of professionals that learn about the new research and best practices around supporting families and mental health well-being. I have joined a community of providers throughout the county that share in the same philosophy and are learning and growing together and providing cohesive services throughout the county. The tools and information we learn from the training series directly impacts the work we do with our families. Our families receive evidence and strength-based support that help the entire family reflect on their experiences to help them build lifelong resilience. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And now we will go to Shanna Watkins. If you can press star 6 to unmute yourself. There we go.
Okay, first, pardon the background noise. I am in the middle of an airport, but I felt that it was very important to speak for First 5. My name is Shanna Watkins. I'm the Executive Director of Early Development Services, which is one of the largest center-based child care providers in Monterey County, both for family child care homes as well as center-based programs. I've been working with First 5 for over 15 years, since pretty close to the beginning, and getting through this pandemic since we stayed open serving families. They've been instrumental in supporting us with information, our staff with mental health supports. The support for the family child care providers comes directly from them, and there's a trust built for First 5 because they are not a government entity in the eyes of the child care community. So we feel strongly about them, about the services that they provide and the support that they've been provided, and hope that the initiatives they're putting forward and the support that they're getting continues on, because we need it. We are not going to survive as a child care community without somebody leading the way in our county. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And I'm going to close public comment with that and see if there's any comment. Yes, sir.
Just one final piece that wasn't mentioned in the presentation, but I know we all know, but it's critical to have on the record, which is the majority of First 5's funding comes through the tobacco tax, which is being reduced given the fact that we're doing a great job of educating our youth and our public on the risks and dangers of the usage of tobacco. And so as we move forward, that number, the $6 billion, is going down, and so we have to be very mindful of the challenges that lay ahead for First 5 as an agency and our communities as a whole. Is the work that they do, is that synaptic tissue between all these different agencies is at risk, and that funding is at risk. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that. I'm seeing no more hands raised, so with that, I will close the item.